For almost a decade, there was only one name that mattered in this entire race. Then, in 2024, a company most Americans still can't pronounce correctly quietly outsold it, and most of the world didn't even notice it happened. This is the real story of who's actually winning the electric car war. 20 manufacturers, one chart, and it's a lot less one-sided than you think. For most of the 2010s, Tesla isn't really competing with anyone on this chart. It's competing with the idea that electric cars could ever be desirable in the first place. Through the Model S, then the Model 3, Tesla spends years essentially alone at the top, growing from a rounding error to over 1 million cars a year, almost entirely on its own momentum, while legacy automakers treat electric vehicles as a compliance afterthought rather than a real business. By 2018, Tesla isn't just the biggest EV maker. For a long stretch, it's basically the only one worth mentioning on a chart like this at all. While Tesla dominates headlines in the West, BYD is quietly doing something just as significant in China, and almost nobody outside the industry is paying attention. BYD didn't start as a car company at all. It began making batteries, which turns out to be the single most important piece of the entire electric vehicle puzzle. That battery expertise lets BYD scale production in a way few competitors can match. And by the early 2020s, it's not just growing, it's growing faster than any other manufacturer on this entire chart. In 2023 and 2024, the gap to Tesla shrinks to almost nothing. Then, in 2024, BYD actually pulls ahead, and by 2025, it's not close anymore. The company that started as an obscure battery manufacturer is now selling more electric cars than anyone else on Earth. Buried in the middle of this chart is one of the strangest success stories in the entire EV industry. SAIC, through its Wuling brand, and specifically one single model, the Wuling Mini EV. It's tiny, it's cheap, it barely qualifies as a proper car by Western standards, and it became one of the best-selling electric vehicles on the planet almost overnight after launching in 2020, purely by being an affordable, practical answer to short urban trips in Chinese cities. It's proof that on this chart, the biggest volume doesn't always come from the flashiest product. Sometimes it just comes from building exactly what millions of ordinary commuters actually need. For years, the traditional car industry treats this whole race as optional. Then, roughly around 2020 and 2021, that changes almost all at once. Volkswagen Group commits to electrification harder than almost any other legacy manufacturer and climbs into a clear third place on this chart within a few years. Hyundai-Kia follows a similar path, building a genuinely competitive lineup from what had been a fairly quiet EV program. Stellantis, BMW, Mercedes, GM, and Ford all show up on this chart too, each with real, meaningful volume. But here's the thing worth noticing. None of them ever seriously threaten the top two. They're playing an entirely different game, protecting their existing gas-powered business while dipping a toe into electric, rather than betting everything on it the way Tesla and BYD did from day one. A handful of newer, much smaller American names show up further down this chart, each trying to replicate what Tesla pulled off a decade earlier. Rivian carves out a genuine niche with electric trucks and SUVs, building real buzz and a passionate fan base, but never coming close to Tesla or BYD's actual volume. Lucid goes even further up market, chasing luxury sedan buyers with genuinely impressive technology, and staying for now a fraction of the size of the giants above it on this chart. Neither company is failing exactly. They're just discovering how enormous a gap Tesla and BYD built in the years before anyone else took this seriously. And then, in March 2024, something happens that sounds almost like a joke. Xiaomi, a company known for smartphones, budget electronics, and rice cookers, launches an electric car. Nobody in the traditional auto industry takes it especially seriously at first. Then, the sales numbers start coming in. And within 2 years, Xiaomi's tiny sliver on this chart turns into one of the fastest growing bars anywhere in the entire dataset, built on the same playbook that made its phones successful. Aggressive pricing, genuinely competitive specs, and a massive existing customer base that trusts the brand already. It's one of the newest and most surprising success stories on this entire chart.
Toyota, the company that arguably invented mass-market hybrid technology with the Prius decades ago, is almost embarrassingly late to this specific race. Its BEV numbers stay near zero for years, while competitors build entire product lines. Nissan, ironically, the company that actually pioneered the modern mass-market electric car with the original Leaf back in 2010, gets quietly overtaken by nearly everyone else on this chart, despite that early head start. Being first, it turns out, guarantees nothing on a chart like this one. Momentum and follow-through matter far more than who showed up earliest. Zoom out, and the real headline of this entire chart isn't any single company's rise. It's the widening gap between the top two and literally everyone else. By 2025 and 2026, Tesla and BYD combined are outselling the next several manufacturers put together. And BYD alone is pulling further ahead of Tesla with every passing quarter. Meanwhile, China's broader EV ecosystem, BYD, SAIC, Chery, XPeng, Geely, Xiaomi, collectively represents a genuinely massive share of this entire chart. A level of dominance in a single new industry that's rare in modern manufacturing history. 10 years ago, this entire chart was basically one company proving electric cars could work at all. Today, it's 20 manufacturers across 3 continents fighting over an industry worth hundreds of billions of dollars a year. And the company currently winning isn't the one most people in the West would have guessed a decade ago. So here's the question. Does Tesla ever take the lead back, or is this gap only going to keep growing? Drop your prediction in the comments and subscribe. We're racing a new chart every week.